Oogenesis begins with a primary follicle that begins developing as FSH increases. This corresponds to the start of the menstrual cycle. During this period of development, the first meiotic division takes place as a primary oocyte forms a secondary oocyte. The second meiotic division then proceeds but stops at prophase 2. At this point, the secondary oocyte is ready for release. The spike in LH during ovulation triggers the release of the secondary oocyte, which is now ready for fertilization. The remainder of meiotic division occurs only after fertilization. After ovulation, the ruptured follicle withers to form the corpus luteum, which is responsible for both progesterone and estrogen secretion. At the point of ovulation, the released egg looks something like this, with 3 layers encasing a haploid nucleus. The outermost corona radiata layer, followed by the zona pellucida layer, and finally the innermost cell plasma membrane. The sperm cell has to break through all these layers to reach and fuse its haploid nucleus with that of the egg cell. Before we discuss the final step of fertilization, let's talk a little about the formation of sperm cells, also referred to as spermatogenesis. In the IB syllabus, there is a greater emphasis on understanding the steps of oogenesis over spermatogenesis. However, having a big idea of the male counterpart is still necessary. Spermatogenesis occurs in the seminiferous tubules of the testes. They all derive from germinal epithelium that undergoes mitosis to produce spermatogonia. Spermatogonia grows to become a primary oocyte before undergoing division and development to eventually form sperm cells. The important thing to remember is the sequence of development from germinal epithelial cells to sperm cells, so do store that in your memory. Once sperm cells have formed, they get transported from the testes to the epididymis, where they are stored before going into the sperm duct for ejaculation. I've done up a labeled diagram of the different parts of the male reproductive system to give you a better picture of how the sperm travels, so do check it out. I've left links in the description below. I've also included a labeled diagram of the female reproductive system to give you a visualization. Understanding the differences between spermatogenesis and oogenesis is a common question that comes up in the exams, so do be familiar with the points. Finally, we reach the last part of sexual reproduction that you have to know: fertilization. As mentioned, the sperm cells travel towards the egg cells via chemical signals before having to break through the 3 barriers to reach the prize. Firstly, sperm cells push through the outer layer of follicle cells to reach the zona pellucida. Once here, acrosomes contained within the heads of sperms releases enzymes to break down this second zona pellucida layer. Once broken down, the plasma membrane of the sperm cell fuses with that of the egg, releasing its haploid nucleus into the cytoplasm of the egg. This triggers the completion of the remaining stages of meiosis in the egg cell. The release of a haploid nucleus from a sperm cell into the egg also triggers a cortical reaction, where the zona pellucida layer hardens to prevent further nuclei from entering the egg cell. And with time, the haploid nucleus from male and female gametes fuse to initiate the formation of a fetus. I hope the way that I've designed this mind map makes sense to you. However, if you're feeling a little lost, allow me to do a quick summary of all that we have covered. Do follow along, because if you're able to keep up, I believe that it means that you have understood all that there is to know about sexual reproduction. Okay, everything begins with the formation of gametes: spermatogenesis in men and oogenesis in women. The formation of gametes consists of multiple steps that include meiotic division, leading to the formation of haploid cells for fertilization. The process of gamete production is highly regulated by changing hormone levels within the body, which follows a regular cycle. The key sex hormones to note are testosterone for men and progesterone and estrogen for women. The relationship of sex hormones with the production of gametes can be seen in the menstrual cycle, which operates based on negative and positive feedback mechanisms. Once gametes have successfully been produced, there is either successful or unsuccessful fertilization. In the case of unsuccessful fertilization, the produced egg cell is lost and a new round of oogenesis can occur. In the event of a successful fertilization, the fused nuclei of sperm cells and egg cells forms a zygote, an embryo, and finally a placenta together with the endometrium. Here, the fetus is able to develop, deriving nutrients via the placenta. Once the fetus has fully developed, contraction of the uterus wall begins, once again regulated by hormones, the key one being oxytocin, where oxytocin in particular causes increasing strength of contractions that eventually leads to birth. Depending on the 23rd chromosomes of the haploid nuclei that fuse, the baby born turns out to either be male or female. And here the cycle of life repeats once again once the young grows old to produce young of its own again. I almost forgot. Before I close, let me go through the nature of science portions you will need to know regarding sexual reproduction. Firstly, gestation. All you need to know is that studies have charted a correlation between higher adult body mass and longer gestation periods. Secondly, you should know how pregnancy test kits work. They basically detect the presence of HCG hormone in female urine. HCG hormone is a hormone produced by the placenta during pregnancy. Therefore, the presence of it indicates successful fertilization and implantation due to the presence of a placenta. A detailed explanation on how HCG hormones are used in pregnancy test kits is covered in my mind map on immunity. I'll leave a link to that mind map in the description below if you want to check it out. Thirdly, we come to William Harvey yet again. A long time ago, before we knew how sexual reproduction occurred, there was only the seed and soil theory, as proposed by Aristotle. William Harvey went on to disprove this theory, however he did not manage to come up with an alternative theory of reproduction. The point to take note of this nature of science fact is the importance of technology in the understanding of science and biology. Aristotle and Harvey were limited by their lack of technology that did not allow them to properly study gametes. However, with technological developments, we are finally able to study gametes and come to a conclusive answer on how sexual reproduction occurs. The last and most important thing to know for the nature of science portion is that of IVF. Fertilization naturally occurs in vivo, or within the body. However, with technological advancements, in vitro or outside the body fertilization is now possible. What you need to know about IVF are the 4 steps taken. They begin with the controlling of the female menstrual cycle to produce eggs in the ovaries. Once they have developed, the eggs are extracted before being mixed with sperm cells in vitro. Once successful fertilization takes place, the developed embryo is reintroduced to the uterus, where it goes on to implant into the endometrium, forming the placenta and establishing pregnancy. One thing to note is the administration of exogenous progesterone before the reintroduction of the embryo to ensure that the endometrium is sufficiently developed and repaired for implantation. Once the placenta has formed, the stages of pregnancy continues as per normal. This brings me to the end of my mind map on sexual reproduction. This is one of my longer mind map videos because sexual reproduction is a rather complex topic which touches on fundamental concepts such as hormones and homeostasis. I highly recommend you check out my mind maps on these 2 topics to get a deeper appreciation of how our beautiful body works. The links to them are all in the description below. Anyways, I hope you found this mind map useful and have a good day.